Hey, this is a Slack notification that I got just now. Of course, this is a real one, but this is from a VP of sales of a $20 million software as a service company. And I did not write that email. I did not send a LinkedIn message. I did not research the company. The system did. And not some expensive tool for $2,000 per month. I built this with Claude AI, Airtable, Clay, instantly, HeyReach, and N8N at the total cost per lead of probably about $50, maybe less. Here's what most people do with cold outreach. They either sit for hours and manually research every prospect, write every email by hand, or they blast 10,000 generic messages and wonder why nobody responds. Both of the approaches are dead. What I'm going to show you in this video is the exact system that I built that finds leads, enriches them with real company data, scores them against my ideal customer profile using 9 different AI signals, runs personalized email and LinkedIn sequences at the same time, and alerts me the second someone wants to talk. And the speciality is I built this 90% with Claude AI. And at the end of this video, you will have everything you need to build this yourselves. In case you don't know me, I'm Lucas Hertig. I've been building automation systems since 2003. 240 million revenue per year, 1.5 billion exits, and 15 acquisitions that I went through. AI is the most powerful automation technology I have ever worked with. I have created architecture, and this is already my version 3, and this is the newest version that I created just this month. Let's talk about what is actually broken. Traditional cold outreach has a fundamental problem. The companies that personalize, the ones that actually research through their email, they can do 20, maybe 30 outbound messages a day. Good quality, but that's not enough volume to build a real pipeline if you need half an hour to research a potential target. On the other side, companies that go for volume, 500 or 1,000 emails a day, they send the same generic template to everyone. Open rates look fine. Reply rates are terrible because buyers can smell a template from sentences in. You probably may need to check your own mailbox or your LinkedIn inbox to see all these kind of random contacting tries that you get. So you're stuck. You personalize, stay small, or scale and get inured. That's the problem this system solves. So first of all, I want to show you a bit about the architectural overview. So what you're looking at is a Clay-centric outreach engine that does 5 things automatically. 1, it enriches every single lead that comes in, that you find, scrape, or have maybe in your CRM already, from an Airtable database, and enriches the lead with real company data and contact data. Second, it scores and qualifies the lead against your ideal customer profile using AI. 3, it generates personalized opening lines for each prospect. 4, it runs email and LinkedIn sequences in parallel by using Instantly for email sequences and HeyReach for LinkedIn sequences that are tightly integrated, and they are syncing everything back to the central Airtable database and sends us a Slack event whenever there is new answer or reply, whenever there is a new meeting booked, everything. And of course, automated via call.com, but if you're using something else like Calendly, it's going to be the same. And we are using N8N in the middle to automate these workflows and connect all these kind of systems. Let's move a bit deeper in the tech stack. Here is the data ingestion flow. Airtable is the single source of truth. Every lead, every status change, every meeting, every record basically lives here. That's important. Think of it as a CRM that you fully control and can customize in minutes. Can be run separately or integrated with your CRM. We have a lot of clients where we run this independently because they don't give us access immediately to their CRM, or they're afraid that we're putting bad data in the CRM. Both does not happen, but it's a good way to get started if you have Airtable as a bridge. What we're also doing there is we're doing deduplication and other things, and this is kind of the central system that we are using. Then we are going to Clay. This is where the real work happens. You give Clay a name and a company from Airtable, and it comes back with employee count, funding stage, revenue estimate, job title, email, validation, LinkedIn data, about 65 columns of enrichment. And it also runs the ICP scoring and generates personalized openers using GPT-5. So in terms of ICP scoring, we have applied various different signals. We have in total many different signals that we can use. And I can show you here. So there is over 150 different signals that are behavioral signals, other signals, social proof, anything we can use. And we are usually applying the right signals based on the right list that we are using or working out together with our clients. And here's something people don't know about Clay. It doesn't just use Apollo or LinkedIn for data. I've researched 62 different data sources you can plug into Clay through our Airtable implementation that you can use for enrichment. Let me show you one more thing that we have collected. If you think about data sources, the most people are thinking about Apollo, ZoomInfo, and others. Nobody's usually thinking about G2.com, Capterra, Trustpilot, Hacker News, or even AppSumo, or maybe industry associations, Yellow Pages, when you have some more local data. Yellow Pages is an excellent example to scrape this. For some people, that feels a little bit illegal. It's sometimes against the terms of service if you scrape that data and use this as a base for enrichment, but you know how it is. I leave it up to you to decide if you want to scrape Yellow Pages. I think in terms of industry associations, it's very uncritical. I have also scraped company register databases in the past. Everything can happen as long as you don't overdo it, as long as you are reasonable with data and don't do anything strange with the data. I think you're fine. I just wanted to say, don't think that only Apollo or ZoomInfo are the only sources that you can use, or LinkedIn Sales Navigators. There's many other sources you can use. Of course, this takes a bit of extra effort because you need to use some specific tools, and it highly depends also on the use case, what you're targeting, on what you should be scraping and how, etc. Yeah, but this is a bit more advanced. But we're doing that also if it's required for a specific client of ours. We're just going ahead and scrape the data for our client if it's required. Yeah. So back to the architecture. Here is a few more things about the ICP scoring model. So in our case, this is specifically made for us, but it highly depends on your target audience, on what you're looking for. But we are very quickly able to create a scoring model for you and then adjust this specifically for your target audience and make sure we actually find the right people at the right time with the right signals, because otherwise it's just very hard and you have just not so good response rates. Now we can go forward on the sequence orchestration. When you look at the sequence orchestration, we are using a combination of, on one side, Instantly, and on the other side, HeyReach for LinkedIn. I have also tested other tools, but this is kind of the market standard right now for us, that we are having them in sync. Of course, when you do outreach, you did all the research, you find all the signals, you do it like close to live. You can basically then set up automatically all the sequences in both Instantly and in HeyReach. Also, this can be adjusted to your needs, and this comes with a lot of infrastructure that we are preparing before, to not land in spam on Microsoft or Google mailboxes, which are the biggest in the world. You need to really make sure you're having the right email infrastructure, you do the warm-up and all these kind of things. If you're interested in these technical details, I'm happy to share with you more in a separate document, but we are using professional infrastructure for Microsoft and Google and not the main domain of the client. It's very important that we are not using the main domain of the client to do the outreach. We are using a new domain that we are warming up initially for 2 to 3 weeks. That will then be connected to Instantly, and that will have additional security that you're not landing in spam. Again, if you're interested in more details, I'm happy to explain it to you in more technical way separately. So the sequence that you're usually using is first a first email, then, for example, a LinkedIn profile visit, then a LinkedIn connection, then another email, then another email. Usually you do this for 3 or 4 steps, not more. I think there is also other elements that need to be part of a good email orchestration, especially for the email part. You need to be sure that you have some kind of an unsubscribe message in the emails. You need to be careful what kind of signatures you are using, that it's a plain text signature. The copy, of course, is important. You know, you have on one side the research that you have done with AI before, and afterwards the following copy that you're staying relevant. If you're doing a campaign in the healthcare sector, hopefully you already have a case study in the healthcare sector. If not, it's also not a problem. You take something adjacent, but it's important pieces that what is inside these emails or LinkedIn messages that you're sending to the customers. A few more things on N8N and how this is used here. So N8N is the automation layer. It's the thing that makes all these tools talk to each other if they are not using native integrations already. I tried to focus as much as possible on native integrations when I built this and not using N8N for everything. We really use N8N here just for the pieces where it makes sense, and the rest is either native integrations or somehow through Claude. N8N has 4 webhook workflows that receive events from instantly on one side for the email sequencing, and then also from HeyReach, as well as for the meeting booking, it goes to call.com. And then call.com and also Slack are the output layers that are providing us status in the bookings. That's the stack. No mystery tools, no proprietary platforms really, except Clay, where you can in some cases use the free version or at least the lowest subscription level, and you own every piece of that. If you're interested in more details on how this works, we will have some nice surprise for you later in the video where you could try this also for yourselves and implement this. So what about building this whole engine? This is the section I'm actually most excited about, because this is where the real leverage is. If you traditionally build such kind of system by hand, it takes you probably 5 to 6 weeks, even if you're very knowledgeable in all these kind of tools. I have done this in the past by hand, but this time I completely used Claude AI as an implementation partner. Not as a chatbot that gives me generic advice, as a co-builder that understands the system architecture. Here is how that actually looked like. I described the problem to Claude, what I wanted to achieve, what tools I had access to, and who I was targeting. Claude came back with a full architectural proposal and a set of PRD or product requirements documents for every piece of the system. Not vague recommendations, specific table structures, field names, data types, workflow logic. Here is the overview of all the different documents that I spent with Claude just in the planning. If we are looking at the master index of all product requirements, here is your example. Here is what we're building. We are using Clay, we're using Airtable, instantly, HeyReach, minimize middleware, and provide a unified dashboard via Airtable. Then I had a set of design principles. So if you wonder how to develop such kind of product requirements, I have separate videos and separate documents how to actually create such kind of requirements. But it's absolutely essential if you use tools like Claude and even Claude Code, if you want help on how to build this. Yeah. And of course, I did key architectural decisions. I didn't want any Next.js dashboard. I wanted to use Airtable. No deep call.com integration, just booking link. N8N only for webhook sync. Signal-based lead scoring in Clay. HubSpot sync optionally, as is for the CRM. And no tier system, binary qualified, disqualified based on threshold. And this is how you see it. This is afterwards the dependency map of the different product requirements documents. So I created afterwards all these product requirements documents separately and reviewed them, modified them, edited them. Very important, yeah. If you go a bit later, you will see really the whole architecture diagrams that have been created, including the Airtable setup. We have here the exact configuration for all 6 tables, fields, formulas, linked records, filtered views. I could copy the setup directly in Airtable and even use the Airtable MCP to actually synchronize this in Airtable. Let me show you what that means. So this is Claude on desktop on Windows. If you have never used that, go to Claude AI and download your version for Windows or for Mac. It's amazing. It has also this famous Claude Cowork that is now also available for Windows since a few days and for Mac for about 2 weeks from now on the date of this video. The cool thing is that here, if we look at connectors that we can use, you can see here I have a connector for clay.com. That means I can actually populate tables in clay.com. I can actually connect to HeyReach. I can connect to HubSpot. I can connect to Instantly. I can connect to my Airtable server. You see it's still active. And many other things. I have the N8N MCP that helps me developing workflows in N8N and any other things you can connect from here. And if you develop such kind of systems with Claude, you can actually orchestrate the product requirements all completely from Claude. Amazing, in my opinion. So as you can see, it's quite a bit of work. It's not some random one-shot, yeah? It's deep thinking about architecture together with Claude as an AI, and that helps you building such kind of a system in probably a few days instead of in 6 weeks, even if you're quite advanced. But now let's go to a live demo of these kind of systems. Let me show you around a little bit on how this works. I need to say I have been using demo data. Because of the GDPR and privacy requirements, I cannot use real customer data for this demo, but I will show you how that works. Everyone likes dashboards. So as we're coming to version 3 of the cold outreach engine that we built, we have now here a wonderful dashboard. So I mentioned to you there is Airtable, and Airtable has functionality that you can actually build dashboards on top. Because the clients we are working with, they want data, they want it live, and they want to see how it works. So this dashboard has an overview. It goes to campaign performance. It goes to the meetings that have been booked. It goes to actually reply triage. We are also doing reply triage, what basically means if people answer in English or in German. So this new version of the cold outreach engine can also, because we are doing a lot in the German-speaking region, Switzerland, Germany, Austria, we have now a separation that we can check if the campaign was running in German or in English and do a triage based on it, and then also have separate German outreach, because what you also need to know is if you're in English-speaking market or in German-speaking markets, you have a little bit different requirements in terms of also the culture, in terms of how you speak to people, how you personalize, etc. That will bring you afterwards to the whole pipeline and lead management. So when we look at the data itself, so I'm opening the data itself. So what is behind here? Let's have a look what is behind. As I mentioned, Airtable is our bridge to the CRM, or like our in-between CRM, where we store all the leads. As I told you before, Airtable is the data that we are having here is examples, but we have configured everything in a way that people who are new leads that are ready for enrichment, ready for outreach, active outreach. This is fully connected to clay.com, but we are looking at in a second. And you can filter the data here in different ways, and you also get metrics if it's activated, and error logs. As I said, this is a demo environment right now, just to be sure we are not violating any personal data. And the company data here was example, so it can equally be just imported by CSV or Excel into Airtable from any source that I mentioned before. It then synchronizes into clay.com. So clay.com has its own workflow in how it's managing this data coming from Airtable. So you have, first of all, the cold outreach enrichment. Again, also here you see the Airtable records are coming in. Then it does all the enrichment. It's to a certain extent limited right now because it's example data. And it goes through the email waterfall. It does a company enrichment. It says here not found because it's example data, but you can see here we are going through all the different enrichments. And afterwards, we are going to different funding signals. We are going to signals in terms of number of employees. And after you have all that, you will then get data from LinkedIn, and that then creates personalized openers and personalized pain hypotheses that helps you afterwards to create the sequences. So Clay is then synchronizing into this tool called Instantly. Based on the individual leads that you're targeting, you get a main part of the email and of the sequence. As you can see, there is an opener that will be populated here, employee count, company name. You can go actually very advanced with this. This is a bit a simplified example, but you could, for example, if you have the budget, you can extract YouTube transcripts and see if people have been participating in a podcast, and then populate this here as a part of the information and say, I've seen you in this podcast. This message resonated very well to me. So besides Instantly, Clay.com is also synchronizing to HeyReach, where you see we have this example campaign, and based on this we have workflows and sequences on how you send a connection request, after what kind of time, and when you send a message and how. And this is fully synchronized with the campaign inside Instantly. When we are sending around this kind of data, as you heard before, we have multiple N8N workflows that are helping us to orchestrate all that. We have Airtable automations and make alerts into Slack. Another workflow that comes from HeyReach back into Airtable. There is another workflow that goes from Airtable back to HeyReach and gives summaries into Slack. And last but not least, we also have the call.com webhook that afterwards confirms to Airtable and to Slack if a meeting is booked, cancelled, rescheduled, etc. This is all organized with N8N. What does this actually produce? Here are the numbers that we are seeing. Open rates, 65 to 75%. That's because of proper deliverability setup and real personalization, not just first name token. Reply rates are usually somewhere between 8 and 12% across email and LinkedIn combined. Positive reply rate between 3 and 5%. Meeting booking rates 2 to 3% of qualified leads. So run 500 qualified leads through this system. That's 10 to 15 meetings with your ideal customers. The cost per lead for enrichment, probably about 30 cents, but it can also be higher, just as a warning. But you have no salary for sales development representative, no manual research of 30 minutes per lead, and no copy-paste email templates. Here is the time breakdown. Lead research went from 10 minutes to 30 minutes per lead to 0. Email writing went from 10 minutes per lead to 0. Daily status tracking went from 30 minutes to 0. That's approximately 30 hours per week freed up. And I want to be clear about something. This isn't about doing the same thing faster. This is a completely different operating model for pipeline generation. If you want to build this yourself, I've documented the entire system, step-by-step instructions. Airtable base, you can duplicate N8N workflows, exports ready to import in your N8N, email and LinkedIn sequence templates, the full list of 62 enrichment data sources, the 149 research signals for personalization. Everything is linked in the description below. You probably would need to calculate between 8 and 10 hours to set it up if you follow the complete operating procedure. If you have rather someone build it up for you, that's what we also do at Prom Partner, where I'm the partner with. We deploy this exact system into your accounts, your tools, your data, your ownership. We build it, we get it up and running in production, and we transfer it to your team. That's what we call build, operate, transfer. If you want to book a call in the link below, 30 minutes, no pitch, no deck, we look at your situation and give you real recommendations for free the first time. The days of choosing between personalization and scale are over. The companies that win outbound in 2026 and beyond are the ones that combine both and automate the entire process. This system does that. If you find this useful, please subscribe. I'm building more of these systems and showing exactly how they work. I've been in the automation business since 2003. AI is the most powerful version of this, what I've ever seen, and we are all just getting started. Thank you for watching.